On the 24th of November 1971, a guy walked onto a plane using a fake name. A few hours later, he'd vanished into thin air with $200,000 and 4 parachutes strapped to him. To this day, he's the only hijacker in U.S. history who was never caught, never even identified. He showed up looking like any other business traveler, dark suit, sunglasses, briefcase in hand. Bought a one-way ticket for a short domestic flight from Portland to Seattle under the name Dan Cooper. Took a seat near the back, ordered a bourbon and soda, lit a cigarette. Nothing about him stood out. That was kind of the point. Once the plane took off, he calmly handed a note to the flight attendant. She figured he was just some guy trying to get her number, so she slipped it into her pocket without even reading it. He leaned in and quietly told her, "You better read that note. I have a bomb." He cracked open his briefcase just enough for her to see wires and cylinders that looked exactly like dynamite. Then he laid out his demands, like he was ordering off a menu, $200,000 in cash, and 4 parachutes. No yelling, no panic, just calm, quiet confidence. The plane landed in Seattle. Every passenger and most of the crew got off. The money and the parachutes showed up exactly as requested. Cooper kept a skeleton crew on board and told them to take off again, flying low, slow, with the rear stairs of the plane wide open, heading toward Mexico. Somewhere above the forests of Washington state, in pitch darkness, pouring rain, and freezing temperatures, Cooper did something nobody saw coming. He strapped the cash to his body with a money belt and opened the rear exit. Up in the cockpit, the crew felt the air pressure shift. That was the only warning they got. Cooper jumped out into that storm from thousands of feet up. No real training, no proper gear, just a business suit and a pair of loafers. And that was it. Nobody ever saw him again. The FBI opened up a case they called Norjack, one of the biggest manhunts in the Bureau's history. They checked out hundreds of suspects, combed through miles of forest, found absolutely nothing. Then, almost 9 years later, in 1980, an 8-year-old kid was digging in the sand along the banks of the Columbia River and stumbled onto 3 rotting stacks of cash. The serial numbers matched the ransom money exactly. But that was it. No more money ever turned up. No body, not one solid lead. Could someone actually survive a jump like that? Into a storm? Into a forest? With zero preparation? Most experts think no. He probably didn't survive the landing. Or he drowned in one of the rivers out there. But there's another theory that just won't die. That he planned the whole thing down to the last detail. That he knew the terrain better than anyone realized. That he survived, disappeared into an ordinary life, and lived out his days under a completely different name. Over the years, dozens of people have come forward claiming they were the real D.B. Cooper. Not a single one has ever been confirmed. In 2016, the FBI officially closed the case. Unsolved, 45 years after it happened. Maybe the answer's buried somewhere in those Washington forests. Or maybe somebody out there is still sitting on the truth, never saying a word. If you've got your own theory, drop it in the comments. And follow for more stories that never got their ending.